Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of the Golden Squeeze podcast. A lot of people thought we wouldn't get this far, but we're here. Episode 2. No pay-per-view this week, but there was a lot that happened on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. So let's start off with talking about Raw. I think the first thing there was a promo between Becky Lynch and Ripley. What'd you think of the promo?
Pretty standard fare. For the most part, you knew it was coming, but obviously, anytime I love Dominic Mysterio, anytime he's in the ring too, and getting the fans all riled up, and of course, Becky popped off some lines at him, and or the typical comic stuff, and it was good. It was.
I still love that Ripley's got the R plus D right on her cheek right here. And when she said, you don't talk about my Latino heat. I mean, that pops me every single time. And then we saw Nia lumber into the ring to attack Becky afterwards. And one of the most cringe-worthy things that from the whole show was when Liv interrupted Becky during her promo after all of that to say, why do you always have to butt in? And this is not all about you. And then she walked away, and it was like a 3-second thing. I don't know why I hated that, but I absolutely did not like that at all. Just the way she delivered that almost made me not want to watch the rest of the show. But I think I'm being a little nitpicky.
Well, yeah, unlike our first episode, that segment was short, sweet, and to the point. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you. A little unnecessary though, but
I am kind of curious as to, which is a good thing, it's not just, okay, we're getting Mommy versus Becky. Now there's, okay, well, is it going to be Liv versus Nia, or somehow this going to turn into some fatal 4-way thing or triple threat, or how are they going to how are they going to resolve all this, and will it be resolved back to a one-on-one match like they've been advertising, or will they do an audible like they have in previous weeks with other matches and go in a different direction? But hey, anytime there are unanswered questions, obviously the goal has been accomplished, and you want to continue tuning in and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Can you slide over again? It's like all center again. There you go. I think that they're going to do a triple threat match on Raw, and maybe set up an angle where Becky has to win the triple threat match in order to fight Ripley at WrestleMania. And even though everyone knows that she's going to win, I think they just want to involve Nia and Liv in some way, form, or fashion. I think they're going to keep it as a one-on-one. Nia doesn't need a match, doesn't need to be in that match, and Liv sure as hell doesn't need to be at that match at WrestleMania, if you ask me.
Wait, but you said you think they're going to make Becky have that?
I think at a Raw before WrestleMania, there's going to be a triple threat match between Nia, Liv, and Becky, and somehow they're going to try to point the angle where she loses the match that she earned at the Elimination Chamber. Whoever wins gets to have the match, because they have to do something. The only options are they resolve it before Raw, or it's a multi-woman match at WrestleMania. I mean, those are the only two options. Liv didn't need to come out there, so she came out and talked to Becky for a reason. Nia came out there and attacked Becky for a reason. So there's going to be some sort of chicanery that goes on between now and WrestleMania involving them. I still think it ends up just being one-on-one for the belt, though.
Wait. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm getting my shows running together here, but didn't Liv and Nia have a scheduled match?
Did they?
And
yes.
Yeah, and
then Becky came in and
interfered and got,
and then it was after, I guess it was after that. It was after that Liv got mad. So yeah. So that's 6 days ago. So touch remember everything, but regardless, it still ended up in Liv being mad.
Well, yeah, but it regardless of your feelings about the interruption of the backstage pro, but there was justification for her.
there
confronting
was,
her.
but unless she was going to be involved, there's no reason to have her confront Becky. So unless she's going to be involved later on down the road, because she could just
Okay,
interfered, and then
I got you.
and then Liv would have been, I had forgotten that Liv was even in the match. If we're being honest, I just remember that Becky came out and attacked Nia, and I totally
You
forgot
should
about the
be
match they were
ashamed of
having.
yourself.
I
It was a
probably
pretty good
should be,
match. No,
but
it was a good match.
regardless, they could have just kept going with the show. They didn't need to have Liv interrupt Becky doing a promo backstage. They had her interrupt. So by her doing that, I feel like that means that they're going to involve her some way.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah. All right. Then next up, I think was Sammy versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, you're my pet peeve, man. Pet peeve.
What's that?
Multiple times.
What?
Multiple times. Multiple. Okay, and I always butcher the name of this finisher. Is it the
Kinshasa.
Okay, I know he hit it at least once, and Sammy kicked out. But there may have been another one. But I know there were multiple shin strikes to the back of the head that were all kicked out of.
Well, kicks don't hurt. I've heard that. They don't hurt according to WWE. They don't matter.
Running shins to the back of the head apparently don't either. And I mean, we all knew Sammy was going to win that match. I think they're building towards him getting on the WrestleMania card in some capacity, and those two could put on a great match in their sleep.
Yeah,
and I just don't think it was necessary for to have Sammy kick out of those types of moves multiple times to have him go over Shinsuke. I just don't think it was necessary. I mean, especially with the way it ended too. They had him hit a haluva kick to the back of the head, and then he waited till he got up and hit another one and pinned him. That's a perfectly acceptable ending.
Yeah,
they didn't have to have him get the false finish kick out on kicking out of a finishing move, and then another close enough to it finishing move. And then I think one time, I can't remember what the sequence was, but I think one of these was on the outside after Sammy had been Shinsuke had been getting the better of him, and the running knee or something to the back of the head or to the face, and then he jumped in the ring. And of course, we all know what happened at 9.5, and so and again, that's par for the course for the way that Shinsuke has been booked here.
Yeah.
It's like, and I mean, he's been involved in great matches. It's just the way that they've gone about them, completely diminishing his finishing maneuver, and just him in terms of win-loss credibility. So,
well, he's got none.
But I mean that's true too.
Suspend disbelief when it comes to some of these guys' records. They used to do that. They used to do that all the time with Tamina, and they would make us think that Tamina Snuka was just this monster. And she probably won like 5 times in her entire 15-year WWE career. She never won, but every single time she came out, they made it seem like it was a big deal. And kind of the end of the Big Show's run too, where he lost every single match, and they wanted us to believe that he was this unstoppable force who just never wins.
Yeah, and in situations, maybe not necessarily as much with Big Show because of where he was at his career, and then more of the role he has now in AEW, just probably more like a mentorship type role. But so I mean, I don't really know if much would have changed under the current booking regime, but you do kind of have to wonder. That's a great example about Tamina. Had it been under this current regime, if she would have been booked to better fit what they were trying to go for in terms of like win-loss and stuff like that. But great point though.
Yeah. And then next we kind of had a throwaway match, but between Raquel and Chelsea Green.
I will say this: it wasn't hyping in or anything like that, but compared to her Raquel's reaction at Elimination Chamber, and then I think the previous episode of SmackDown, I think it was, better crowd reaction for sure.
Yeah.
And now, granted, I mean, Chelsea Hill's a phenomenal. Chelsea Green is a phenomenal like heel character. So
yeah,
I mean, you know, kudos to them for putting a proper pairing to try to get that crowd reaction they like. But, you know, just that goes back to the same stuff we said before. I think if they would have booked her in more of like a Wardlow type role to begin with, maybe the crowd reactions would be even better than they are. But the match to me was, you know, fine for what it was.
Yeah. When she came out of the Elimination Chamber, there was something that I noticed. I thought she was crying before she came back, the way that her face was all like red and like her eyes were kind of like red. I thought she had just been crying, but then I saw on her social media, she is going through something right now. She's got like a skin disease of some sort that's causing her skin to redden, and they weren't able to diagnose her. And she thinks that she's like found medicine that's going to help with it, but that's what was causing the redness in her skin. And that's why she looked kind of shiny, because she was putting like a cream on it, and she looked kind of shiny, like she had just been crying. And I noticed it. I was like, man, is she okay? I didn't want to say anything, but then I saw like on her TikTok, and apparently like she had like 7 straight TikToks of her like just going through it with this skin issue. So yeah, I hope she's able to take care of that, because it's noticeable to me. I don't care, but I could just tell that there was something a little off and something there with her. Not a big deal though. Next match though. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, and I truly hope that they figure out a good character arc for her to get the fans invested. I mean, I'm just saying, I
like her. I think she's super talented.
I
just don't think she should be a babyface. She's too big. She shouldn't be a babyface.
And yeah, we talked about that at length before, and I agree.
Yeah. Now, next match, I thought was too short, in my opinion, for a street fight. But the New Day versus the Imperium, I thought it needed to be a little longer. I thought they did a great job in the time constraints they had, but I just felt like it could have gone on for maybe 10 more minutes.
Oh, those guys
way too short.
That could have been with the guys involved, and then especially being a
street
you
fight,
know, in the tag team, you know, thing too, with, you know, not just the one-on-one work. I think that easily with the 4 involved could have easily been one of those 60-minute time limit matches or something. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. When you see those two guys fight, you know, when the crowd always goes fight forever and they chant that. I mean, I could watch them fight for at least an hour, especially when you're involving kendo sticks. I mean, when you get kendo sticks involved. But they had some nice spots. They had some nice spots in the match. The ending of it, the precision that it took, because they went from throwing one guy, I can't remember who it was, onto a table. Well, Woods did the elbow drop onto the table, and then Kofi got in the ring, or someone got into the ring, got thrown into another table which had been placed early in the match. There was a chair that had been placed
in the turnbuckles,
in the turnbuckle that they immediately threw somebody into, and I think there was one more thing that had been set up previously that they hit with precision. It was just
I think it was Woods that was still in the ring, but when he went to grab the guy from Imperium that was sitting on the apron, I can't remember if it was a Giovanni or Kaiser, but he was sitting there like almost in wait. When, you know, he grabbed him, he popped him in the head with the chair, got him, and then that's when he threw him into the chair, into the turnbuckle. I knew it was like a back-to-back spot. It was the chair shot to the head, and then the throwing him into the chair, and then rolling him up.
Yeah, it was a great sequence. The end was a great sequence. It was quick, and it was just so precise that I had forgotten that some of those things had been set up
Oh
earlier in the
yeah,
match, even though the match, like I said, wasn't long enough. So it wasn't that far behind that those things had been set up. But it was just a great sequence. Those guys are all super talented. Glad
oh
that
yeah.
they got to have that street fight, because I feel like you don't really get that many street fights on non PLEs these days. But
Or non-holiday specials.
that's true. That's true. When they involve food and other things to put into the match.
Yeah.
But it was a good match, though. It was a very good match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Match of the
Yeah.
Not that the others were bad. I mean, Sammy versus Shinsuke was great. There were some other good matches, but just
I mean, most of the matches they are with they're standard Raw fare for the most part.
Yeah.
And this was something that stood out. If it was a little bit longer, it probably would have been pay-per-view quality. Just like longer street fights. I like to see more mayhem, but I thought it was good. I have no complaints about the match other than the length of it.
Did you hear what they said? They said they said the culmination of a 2-year rivalry. I don't know where I've been that it was going on that long, because I know they've been, but either way, regardless of that, it was good. The promo before that match, we spoke about. I will boycott for at least a few hours if they have Dom dethrone Gunther. That is completely unacceptable.
I'm telling you, it is happening.
No,
and Priest is getting the cash in.
They can't
on an Intercontinental title. That's what is happening.
Okay, now that because they did. Gunther actually teased that. He said, "Well, obviously you're not cashing that. You're not here to cash that in on me tonight," or however he worded it. But and then leaving with the gold, I could still see some angle where it's Imperium versus Priest and Balor for the tag titles, and then maybe Gunther versus Dom or something, or maybe even Priest versus Gunther, or if it's Dom versus him, maybe a cash in after Gunther retains or something. But I just don't. I am not a fan of a title reign lasting that long with a guy like that being stolen on a cash in. That's just me.
Yeah.
But because
the other way to look at it is
Gunther. So
again, Priest is not going to take it off of Roman. That's never going to happen. They're not going to have him take it off Cody. If Cody beats Roman, that's never going to happen. So his option is Seth,
which would make sense because he's on Raw.
Yeah, or like I've said, the first ever cash in on a non-main belt, which is what I think is going to happen. But we'll see. We'll see what Triple H has up his sleeve there. We'll see what he's got. But
did they do some angle one time with a cash in on the U.S. title, or did that just get teased?
Now that you're mentioning it, I kind of remember something like that. I'll go back and check.
Okay. Yeah. I don't. And that could have just been teased because when they were hammering home the point, it could be any title. So,
but if there was, I mean, they must have really done because you don't have somebody get the briefcase to win a U.S. title, so that means that we made the wrong decision by having you win the title. So this is what we're gonna do to weasel our way out of it.
Yeah,
we're just gonna have you win the U.S. title, but I'll look that up because I don't really remember that, but there's something in my brain that, I don't know, maybe John Cena had the U.S. title and there was a failed cash-in when John Cena had it is kind of what I'm remembering. But
well, I remember the failed cash-in when he was the champ when Damian Sandow tried to cash in.
Yeah.
And
I totally forgot about Damian Sandow.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Well, you know what, man, just from everything you're reading, Judgment Day is here to stay, and they're going to continue riding that ship. So as much as I would hate it, by the time WrestleMania is said and done, I would, it really would not surprise me if that whole faction held every major title from Raw.
Yeah. It was Austin Theory in 2022. He unsuccessfully cashed in on the U.S. title.
And who had it?
Oh gosh,
2000.
yeah, so it's just recently.
I can't remember who
Well, the
had
contract was originally only for a world championship match. 2022 Money in the Bank winner Austin Theory was the first to cash in on a non-world championship when he unsuccessfully challenged for the U.S. championship. So unsuccessfully challenged leads him to believe that he may not even have.
Did Cena have it then?
See,
Or
yeah, it was Cena. So yeah, I was right.
was it
Yeah, Cena had the
2022? Okay.
yeah. I knew. I thought I remember something about Cena being involved. Totally forgot about Austin Theory being involved.
So 2 of the few unsuccessful cash-ins have been against Cena.
Yeah, who did Baron Corbin unsuccessfully go against?
I can't remember because I knew that he was unsuccessful. It may have been Cena.
Otis? Was Otis unsuccessful? What did they do with Otis when he won? Didn't Otis have a Money in the Bank? Or am I making that up?
No, he won during the pandemic.
COVID.
The match was at the headquarters.
Yes.
Yeah.
How could I forget?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. All right. So next we had Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
You know, I think the right team won, but I just found it a little odd, and maybe this was intentional, that, you know, Hartwell and LeRae lasted longer against the champs than they did against Baszler and Stark. Yeah. But that could have been by design. And hey, because I remember thinking when Baszler was walking out, it's like, God, the way that they just butchered her presentation once, you know, they remember, like, okay, they're gonna do this right. They had her choke out all the other contestants at that elimination chamber. But then remember they had Becky beat her with the backslide at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think it was the backslide, wasn't it? Or like, or rolling back when she had her in the clutch or something. But it was some cheesy way they had her win, and then it just went downhill. And the presentation of her, like, being this, you know, badass, was kind of like dead and gone for a while. And so, but I like the way they're trying to rebuild that.
She's missing something, though, in my opinion. I think she needs a true, legitimate mouthpiece. Because first of all, her voice doesn't quite fit her persona, in my opinion. She doesn't have the right voice. It's very squeaky, it's not very badass. It doesn't go with her personality. I just think she needs a strong mouthpiece. We really need to get Paul Heyman with a woman, I think. If he could, I think that he should have been with Ronda. If he was with Ronda.
I wholeheartely agree. But that's the thing. If they didn't pull the trigger and do that, granted, that could have been a Vince McMahon decision.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just can't help but to think if they didn't pull the trigger and do that with Ronda Rousey, then I just don't know if they're going to do that here. And then honestly,
they're not. They're definitely not. Paul's busy.
Yeah,
but there's nobody like Paul left.
Yeah,
he's one of a kind. There's no other mouthpiece that could do for Shayna what he could do for her, in my opinion. But I just don't think that she should ever hold a mic. That she should just look menacing, go out there, kick ass, and then leave. But if she had a strong mouthpiece, man, she could be something special. But until then, I just think that she's just a mid-carder.
And you know, especially with, like you said, Heyman's obviously in the middle of another the biggest storyline right now, but I could see them doing too, or I think what could work is William Regal.
Yeah,
being a mouthpiece for that team, because, like, look at AEW when I think he started the Blackpool Combat Club before he ended up coming back to WWE. But, you know, just, you know, those group of, like, guys who like to get out there and fight, and that's the way that they're presenting these two right now. Just say, get in there, handle business, and get out.
Yeah.
And so I mean, but again, I don't even know currently what exactly his role is, or if, or when, or if he can come back on screen in that capacity. Because I know when he came back, there's still something in his, I think like a non-compete clause or
Non-compete, yeah.
non air personality, like capacity kind of a deal. But again, I think that would kind of fit what previously worked.
Yeah. He's good too, so he could definitely do it. But she just needs somebody if she wants to take that step, go to the next level. She needs somebody with her. And then next we got to Drew McIntyre's promo. He's doing all this heel stuff, but then when he came down, he was slapping hands with all the fans. So I was really confused by that. I didn't get it.
I think that was intentional, trying to put on this thing of, oh, he did it through all this hard work and coming back and doing everything the right way, kind of a thing. They're trying to portray, even though obviously he benefited from Logan Paul using brass knuckles and beating Cody. He benefited from the bloodline. I think they're going on with this hypocritical thing he's doing, where he's taking pride in all these cheap victories that he was so much against because of what happened to him previously. But I don't know, man. I just laugh every time the CM Punk stuff. I just think that's hilarious. We was talking about his eardrum. He's like, but I told him I'm not like CM Punk. I'm not missing WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have a nice little feud once Punk is medically cleared.
I'm thinking that'll be a great SummerSlam event for sure.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Drew is keeping his name, CM Punk's name, in his mouth, because keep CM Punk, I don't want to say relevant, because, I mean, he doesn't need to be there to be relevant, as we saw for the previous 10 years when the fans chanted his name until the day he came back. Mm-hmm. But it's still nice for him to be talked about so that when he comes back, it's a storyline that we all know is going, or likely going to happen. Obviously, they can always pivot, but it was a decent promo. It's a good promo. Always him going crisscross applesauce on the ground, wearing a kilt like CM Punk when he went when he did his pipe bomb. That was nice to see.
Didn't he tell some person in the crowd, "Don't look up my kilt"?
He did. I felt like he was talking right at me because my eyes were wandering. No.
Now, I am, and again, just the writers doing the job they're supposed to be doing, keeping you guessing and know what's going on. The stuff with Seth Rollins coming out and talking about dismantling the bloodline and doing this and doing that, it just makes you wonder, is Drew gonna at some point at Mania interfere and take out Solo or do something? And but again, there's kudos to them for continuing to keep you guessing,
and they are making us guess. My question is, though, do they know what's going to happen at WrestleMania? Because for a lot of this stuff, it feels like they're changing things based off of crowd reaction, which they probably should do. But I want to know right now, if they told me what their plan was, is that going to be what happens when the first week of April rolls around and it's time for WrestleMania? Because I honestly think that they're going to pivot again. I don't know if they know. I think they're trying to feel out the WWE universe to try to figure out what they want, and they may pivot again.
And we won't know till at the very least. I don't think the full story will start to come to light until definitely after WrestleMania. But again, man, it's like, okay, they called an audible, but then The Rock is so masterful it using social media and doing all that stuff. And then,
SmackDown time, but yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's great.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But just still, just even that, it's like, okay, maybe this was the plan all along. I mean, it's getting that good. Yes.
They want us to wonder, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Is this what they planned the entire time?
Yeah.
Is this a pivot? So they are succeeding in ways that Vincent Kennedy McMahon could never have dreamed of succeeding over the past, 10 years. Obviously, I'm not going to get into 90s Vince, but 2010s Vince was out of touch. So the fact that Triple H is just, his fingerprints are all over everything. And we don't have to worry, because as a wrestling fan, I would always hold my breath and I would always be skeptical of when Vince is going to show up in creative. And he always would. Now we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Oh,
As a wrestling fan, that's just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and then it's like, because like you said, for the most part, you knew something was going to go awry. At least, post, like in the past 10, 12 years, whatever, you knew that creatively it was going to be a mess at some point.
Yeah.
But still, it's like they would still always keep us hooked in with the Yes movement and Kofi Mania and all that. Like, it sprinkled in like, okay, we'll give you another shot. And then, of course, here we are.
But it always just felt like they did that begrudgingly. Like, I feel like Daniel Bryan, the Yes movement was done by WWE begrudgingly, and Kofi Mania was done by WWE begrudgingly. It just felt that way to me. Like, it happened so quickly after the fan reaction. It was like Triple H saying, okay, if that's what you want, then I'll scrap this idea and I'll go on to this. And I think that's a good idea. Maybe it's not, because us fans, we don't know what we want. I mean, we think we know what we want, but then we don't. Because a guy like you, for years, you've been texting pay-per-view after pay-per-view. Here comes The Rock. He's coming out. He's coming out. And he never did. And I know that you were in the majority, not the minority. And fans like, here comes The Rock. And The Rock comes out and he gets the match. And the fans like, why the hell would you give the match to The Rock? Because you've been clamoring for this for at least 7-8 years. Like, since since the Shield disbanded, we've been asking for The Rock to come. And he does. And the fans instantly turned on him and said, we want Cody. So fans don't know what they want. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea listening to us, because we are stupid, but it's a long way of saying they're going in the right direction. I think they're doing a great job of keeping everyone on their toes. And they just need to do what they think is best, because I think I know more than Vince. I know I don't know more than Triple H. So that's that's the difference between the two people in charge. But moving on to the next match, it was Nia and Liv Morgan, which was really just a match to set up Lynch interfering, and then the backstage confrontation and the anger from Liv Morgan. We talked about pretty much what we thought about this earlier, but we'll see where they go with this. We'll see if it sets up a triple threat match. We'll see if on a Raw, or if it sets up something for WrestleMania, or maybe it's foreshadowing for Liv Morgan interfering in the Becky Lynch Rhea Ripley match. Who knows? Who knows what this is setting up? I honestly have no clue how they're going to involve Nia and Liv, but I think that they will both be involved in this somehow, some way. This is not a one-off. This is a plan to set up something. I just don't know what. I don't know if we need to touch too much more on that, since there wasn't really much to that. But
no, I mean, like we said earlier, it was fine for what it was. Probably, no surprise that the interference occurred, especially with how the show started. And so, but it was fine for what it was. Again, sets up stuff for the winding road to WrestleMania. So it was fine, I'm sure. But yeah, interesting to see what they finally decide to do, though. So
and then the main event: Grayson Waller versus Cody Rhodes. I did not like this segment as a whole, I will say.
I hated the end of it. Hated it.
The match didn't make much sense, and then the Paul Heyman stuff after, to me, didn't make that much sense. I mean, we can talk about the match, but the match was just there to... I mean, there wasn't much to it, really.
I like Grayson Waller. I like Austin Theory. I think they're good wrestlers. But again, if you're going to push them forward, and then I don't know if you saw like that vignette or whatever you want to call it, that the advertisement for Grayson Waller before the match happened. It was earlier in the show. He's like, I'm here to stay, or whatever he was saying, like hyping him up and doing the highlight stuff. And you can't continue to try to bill this guy as something beyond the Grayson Waller effect talk show segments, and then just continuing to have him lose. Same with Austin Theory.
Well, they're setting up something between the two of them. I mean, if they both keep losing, then something's got to give. But
they've been losing before this.
But there's a lot of guys that they just have lose. They have most of their roster lose consistently.
Yeah.
They don't have any. They used to have 50-50 booking. They don't really have as much 50-50 booking anymore. They're letting guys just lose over and over and over and over and over again. So the question is, if you make these guys lose this much, is anybody going to care when they ultimately fight? And I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And I think that they're talented enough that they can put on a good match. And I think that people might still care. I'm not going to care all that much, but I think I might be in the minority. I don't really care about either of these guys all that much. I think that a lot of people do, though. I think people still like to see Austin Theory get beat up. I greatly enjoyed him getting beat up at Elimination Chamber during the Grayson Waller effect.
Oh, that was a great sell, that stomp. Oh, that was great. That was incredible.
Yeah. But we don't need to talk too much about the actual match itself. We can talk about what happened after the match when Paul Heyman came out by himself with three, what did he say? 3 suspended Florida police officers. He said they were suspended. And so they were there to help during their suspension, which I thought was hilarious, but it also took a little bit of the seriousness out of it to me when he said that. But those guys, I'm sure that they're probably people at the Performance Center right now, but they look just... Man, they were just like the most nondescript, paint by numbers officers you've ever seen. I always love going back at, like, you can watch those videos on YouTube of them showing main event guys or wrestlers now before when they were like Braun Strowman as a rosebud for Adam Rose.
There's a bunch of them as rosebuds.
Or CM Punk inside the car with the Tommy gun back before he was on TV. Or when Sasha and Charlotte
and Alexa
and Bliss were with Triple H during his entrance, or Jeff and Matt Hardy when they were at an In Your House, and King of the Ring, and they like let down like the gate to let somebody out.
Oh.
So it's always cool to see those things. There is a 0% chance that any of those 3 guys that we ever see them again. They just did not look like. I don't want to be mean to those 3 guys because they may be the future of the WWE, but
for our 3 listeners, I want y'all to remember this. when one of those guys is champion one day. Speaking of which, I guess I'm 0 for 1 on my bold predictions about Big E confronting Gunther after the Imperium New Day match. Whoops.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
there's still time.
I think you saved that for Mania. You saved that for Mania when ultimately the Imperium and the New Day get a longer match at Mania, and then you have...
unfortunately, that's not happening. They made it pretty crystal clear that was the blow off of the feud. Anyways, back to the end of the segment. Listen, I understand what what the thought was, or I get it. Because Paul Heyman talked about it. He's like, this time a year ago, me and you were in the ring crying together.
Right.
And just showing the transformation for, hey, allowing them to come in there and being cordial and all this. And now, like, no, you're not coming in the ring. And like, hey, I'm through. I'm hunting y'all now, and I get it. I get the, hey, changing the mindset, and because they touched on that, like during Mania last year when he, wasn't as aggressive when he could have been, when he had, the opportunity, I guess, when the odds had kind of evened out a little bit at one point. I think when Zayn and Owens came out before Solo came back and all that stuff. But I personally think that whole thing would have been a lot more effective if it mirrored last year. It was just Heyman and not include these lackeys who, gee, I wonder if they're going to get the crap kicked out and run out of the ring. I think it would have been a much more effective segment with just Heyman and Rhodes. But this time, no, you're not coming in here. Hey, let the bloodline know I'm not going to sit back and wait for y'all to come to me anymore. I'm coming to y'all. And I think it would have been a lot more effective. But when I saw when I saw the guards coming out, I was like, oh, come on, you gotta be kidding. But
and the thing that I didn't like past that, I didn't like that. The very end. What the hell is Paul Heyman doing with his two phones? What he said, call Roman Reigns, call The Rock, and then he just held the phones at his chest. Like, first of all, if you're calling them, what are you doing with the phones at your chest? Like, if they pick up, you have to still talk. What do you think the persona that Roman Reigns has put on, how do you think he would feel? Not Joe Anoa'i, or whatever his real name is. Roman Reigns, the character, how do you think would feel if Paul Heyman called him up with 20,000 people screaming in the background, or how many people you fit inside San Jose, California, and then him with the phone to his chest, not speaking? He'd be so annoyed. He'd be like, what the hell are you doing, Paul? Why are you calling me right now? And you don't even have your ear to the phone, so you can't even hear me if I pick up. Like, that made zero sense to me. And I don't know what your thoughts were on that, but that pissed me off so much when he did that. And also, why does Paul Heyman have two phones? Like, come on.
Because one is to contact The Rock and one is to contact Roman Reigns. It was just pretty self-explanatory. There was the Bloodline cell phone cover and The Rock cell phone cover.
I honestly picture him having a phone with a contact list of one. It's just The Rock on one, and then just Roman on the other. And then he's got an Usos phone and a Solo phone too, where he can't call them from the same phone, or just in case he has to call all of them at the exact same time, and he can't patch them in. He has all these separate phones. But the entire segment was absolutely ridiculous. I don't think Cody did anything wrong in the segment.
No.
I don't know who produced that segment. I just didn't think anything and add anything really to the feud. I think that it made Heyman look a little silly, and I just didn't think it was necessary. But it is what it is. I thought that the way that they started SmackDown and SmackDown as a whole made up for the ending to the match. But before we get to that, there was a show in between on NXT.
Mm-hmm.
I admittedly don't really watch much NXT, so at least for this episode, Wade is going to be our NXT connoisseur. I think that the first match on the card was two people who I have never heard of, and that is Kiana James and Kalani Jordan. So tell me about that match with an Izzy Dame.
Yeah.
Izzy Dame. So tell me about that.
And full disclosure, like, I just weekly keep up with NXT, or have been, but I was able to find it from last week, watch it. Now I've got it set to record every Tuesday, and a little different watching and trying to follow along than just reading some some reports. But I tell you what,
Well, do you
man.
have Hulu? Do you have Hulu?
Yes, I do.
Because Hulu they upload NXT the next day, so
Okay.
they have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and they all upload the next day.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's actually how I consumed SmackDown, because I was not able to watch it live.
Oh, okay.
So I waited until it uploaded to Hulu and watched it on there. I did the same thing for Raw, and I might do the same thing for SmackDown here and there, but if I had to guess, probably not. But
Yeah.
back to the match.
Yeah. I got mine on YouTube TV. So if y'all are listening, YouTube TV execs, feel free to give me a free subscription. All right.
They're not listening.
Yeah, I know. They are in my heart. I tell you what, man. You know, I'm not really familiar. I've heard of Kiana James, and it was a good match, man. Like, you know, two that I think are, you know, with the right storyline going forward. Not a very long match, but both very talented, athletic wrestlers, and the match came to a conclusion with Jordan being against the ropes, and while the ref was distracted, Izzy Dame on the outside took some shots, threw her back in the ring, and James won with her move called the Deal Breaker. It's kind of an interesting finishing move too, so I'll describe it real quick. She takes the head of her opponent and like does like a fallen back to the mat and drives her opponent's head into her shin.
Okay.
And when I saw it, I was like, huh, that's kind of original for a finisher, but effective. But I'm sure in typical fashion, give it a week and somebody will immediately kick out of it. And but
yeah, nobody's protecting Kiana James or Kalani Jordan's
but
finisher.
Dude, but I tell you what though, like they very athletic and talented, and definitely two to watch going forward for sure.
Okay.
Like very, very good match. It was a good. The wrestling was good start to finish, in my opinion.
Okay. On to the Good Brothers versus Malik, maybe Malik,
I think
Blade, and Idris Enoff. We'll say.
I think it was a Nofe. It's got one of those things, which
Enofe?
I always mispronounce the name of the. Yeah. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. I think interesting Nofe. All right, so another good match. You know, Good Brothers worked well. The veterans worked well with these two guys. Two guys looked good in there, and they did not look out of place at all in there with the Good Brothers. They look good.
It's a shame that the Good Brothers are relegated to NXT, mainly because you look at NXT and I look at it as like the G League in the NBA. Maybe I shouldn't look at it that way, but they're just too old, I feel, to be on NXT. And I could be wrong because, like I said, I do not watch a lot of NXT.
Yeah,
I read about it.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, because dude, I think the same thing. Whenever these guys come back, for the most part, you think, okay, they're there to give the rub to the younger people. But then sometimes you're like, oh, well, hell, they just won the title, or they won a title or something, just kind of unexpected.
Yeah.
But crowd reaction was good for the Good Brothers. The match was good. Now afterwards, okay, so little backdrop here. So the champs are the Wolf Dogs, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin.
Right.
And next week they are going against Chase and Hudson. And then Nathan, so they came out and were talking smack afterwards to the Good Brothers after the Good Brothers won. Then Nathan Frazier and Axiom came out and they brought up the LWO, and the LWO came and hit the Good Brothers from the top turnbuckles, and then kind of a melee ensued while the Wolf Dogs are just watching on. And then there was a backstage confrontation between Wolf Dogs and the Good Brothers. So I'm thinking this is going to set up, if not just a straight up Good Brothers versus Wolf Dogs at the NXT Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be some type of tag team event. But see, the interesting thing with this one is, man, talking about the Good Brothers being, older and maybe more in the giving the rub, dude, you got to think at some point Corbin and Breaker have to drop the titles because Breaker,
Braun was on SmackDown.
He is on SmackDown. He is on the SmackDown
2 matches
roster
now,
Yeah,
which we'll talk about later. But he's on the SmackDown roster. He's now had 2 squash matches, which means typically when they give you squash matches to start out, it means that they want you to succeed.
Yeah.
In my opinion, people who get those squash matches rarely do succeed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of people who they've given squash. He was a squash match guy. Braun Strowman was a squash match guy. I wouldn't say that Braun Strowman hasn't succeeded, but I know that he hasn't done what they wanted him to do or be.
Well,
that's their. I think that's their fault, in my opinion.
100%.
I think that Braun is Braun Strowman, not Braun Breaker. I think Braun Strowman is super talented. Then the other question becomes: do they just call him Breaker? Because now you got 2 guys named Braun, which is not a common name, but you got 2 guys named Braun and Strowman and Breaker. Is that really something they want to do? Is have 2 guys with the same first name? So are they going to drop one of their first names?
I'm thinking. I mean, if they have,
I don't think they can repackage.
No. If they have them on different shows, that
I still think that's weird because they like to call them both Braun. The announcers like to call them both Braun. So I think that's just. I don't think you can get away with that. I think that you.
But
I think
that
in their mind
differently,
they confuse
Josh.
They are. They're going to say something stupid like it was pronounced Brown. It's Braun Strowman, not Braun.
But
we digress though. But they're just a couple guys. I think that Baron Corbin's another guy who I think he's talented. I don't think that he should be on NXT. And I'm not saying that you can't be talented on NXT. What I'm saying is that you get on NXT to be talented to get to the main roster. You don't. If you're talented and Braun's been he's held gold of some sort in the WWE on the main roster. He doesn't need to be in NXT. He is a talented person who I think still has something to offer. He's witty.
Wait, who's held gold on the main roster?
Baron Corbin has.
Okay, I thought you said Braun.
I might have.
Okay.
If I did, I misspoke. But Baron Corbin, he's had success on the main roster. They felt highly enough for him when he was the lone wolf to give him a briefcase. And I know that they balked on that and they changed their minds, but they saw something in him. And I think that he's done everything that has been asked of him. He's every stupid thing they've asked him to do, he's done, and he's done it, in my opinion, successfully. And he has a great move set. He's got one of the best finishers in the WWE, and they even felt enough to protect his finisher. So if you're going to spend years protecting his finisher just to move him down to NXT, to me, just I don't know, it seems like a waste. But you know, there's a lot of people on the roster who are being wasted away because there's just so much talent. They have an abundance of riches right now, which is great. So it's always one of those questions. It's, oh, I love this guy. Well, then who do you move down? Who do you have step aside? Because there's only so many hours in a Raw.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I get it, but I'll still bitch about it. But I get it though. All right. So moving on, Roxanne Perez versus Jakara Jackson with Lash Legend.
Okay. So another one where I think Jakara Jackson, she looked good, man. I think this could be another one that we're going to be talking about in the future. And Lash Legend tried to get involved. The ref did. It was great. He did the old wind up to throw her out. Dude, he was getting it. He did the whole get your roll on and tossed her. And
oh, that's good.
So she went and Perez did not win with pop rocks, which is her main finisher. She won with, you'll appreciate this, with a crossface submission win.
Ooh.
So yeah,
I love me a good crossface chicken wing.
oh yeah, it was a good crossface, and so
Bob Backlund will be proud.
she won, and then yeah, and Perez was upset, because I don't know if you know, but they had Shotzi had the legit injury when she was challenging Lyra Valkyrie for the title, and then they had to call like unscheduled audible, like, and did an open challenge, and Lash Legend, I think it was, went out there and ended up losing, and Perez was upset with us. Oh, I should have had that, but I was, in the showers when it happened, when they called it. And so she's trying to get back to the title, and that's what set up the match with Jackson, because Jackson, Lash Legend are, buddies. And then there's a angle going on. I can't remember which member of Chase U that Thea Hall went on a date with, but there's a backstage segment where the date didn't go well, and let's see, JC Jane and Kiara James were basically stay away from those people in Chase U were losers, forget about them, this and that, and just, so I'm sure that'll lead to some match down the line, but just a continuation, because I remember reading about that, and so that was short, sweet, and to the point. And what was the next match? Was that Dijak?
Dijak and Luca Crucifino.
Yeah, I like Dijak. I really, really do. But he's a guy, man. He's an older veteran, and if they haven't moved him up yet, I just don't know if they're going to. But it was a good match. I love Dijak's finisher, Feast Your Eyes. Love it.
Okay.
And dude, I think the way he sets it up, I could be getting this mixed up. I don't think he sets him up. He sets him up like he's putting him up in the torture rack, but then does does an FU, or excuse me, an AA, does like a reverse AA, so you land face first on the knee, and it's called Feast Your Eyes. I love that finisher.
Well, he's super talented, and he is one of the few guys I do know.
Yeah.
I know he was T-Bar and Dominic.
He was T-Bar.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he's one of the few guys that I do know.
I like him, man.
He's super talented. He was super talented. And he's also got size, so I'm surprised that he's not somebody who they'd be foaming at the mouth over to keep on the main roster, because he did have a short stint on the main roster. Not a successful stint, but again, not his fault, in my opinion. More of creative's fault. But, I guess you should be able to get over any gimmick is what their thought process is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a flawed thought process, but they want you to get over on any gimmick, and that's very tough to do, especially with a lot of the gimmicks that they give people.
But you'll like how this match was set up. This was set up when who was he fighting again?
Crucifino.
Okay. Crucifino was at the asylum, I think, to speak with Gacy as Gacy's representation, because Gacy has been, I guess, sentenced to the asylum because he's a nutcase. And Dijak was trying to get in there, and he put hands on him, and they ended up fighting. And then Gacy emerged from the back, having escaped from his straitjacket, which was still owned to a degree. And then, so a fight ensued with them, and then it was another backstage segment later that led to another melee between Gacy and Dijak. But I really like Hard Justice, so it was a good match. I enjoyed it. The wrestling, I didn't have any gripes with anything on the show. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention. I believe it was the Roxanne Perez match. Dude, it could have been bad. She did. Uh, I don't know if it's the springboard backflip or dude, I just want to call it the lion salt is what I want to call it that Perez did. And when she landed, dude, she went shins first on Jackson's face. And I was like, ooh, I was like, and even the announcers like touched on it a little bit, but luckily nobody was seriously hurt. But yeah,
Good.
Yeah, they moved on like pros, man. But it was
Who announces over there?
Booker T is back. I think it was his first week back in a little bit. I think wasn't he out with like health issues or something? A family member or something? I thought I remember reading there was some reason he was off the air for a while, and honestly I can't remember the other announcer's name, man. I got to get back in tune with everything, so I'm not going to sit here and try to lie and say what his name was. SmackDown.
Is he?
Yeah, I think it's him and Corey Graves on SmackDown and Cole and McAfee on Raw.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right.
What was the next match?
Well, then I think that there was a talking segment with Valkyria where she announces a title match with Tatum Paxley.
Yes.
And then there was the return of the Perfect 10 himself, Sean Spears.
Yes. Okay. So Valkyrie and who was she with?
Tatum Paxley.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Valkyrie and Paxley are out there. And I think they're running this angle where Paxley is like obsessed with Valkyrie. And
the old Mickey James.
Mickey James, yeah. I don't know if it's to that level, but
not yet.
Yeah, but she announced that next week at NXT Roadblock, or I'm sorry, tomorrow on NXT Roadblock, it's going to be those two.
Neither of those things.
Yeah. Tuesday.
Well, I guess we'll be posting this tomorrow, and then that will be tomorrow.
Yeah,
there you go.
Tuesday on NXT Roadblock. It's going to be those two versus drumroll the Kabuki Warriors, and it's for the Kabuki Warriors tag team titles that being defended on NXT.
Well, that's just so. Okay, let me talk about that because this is the first I've heard of this because I don't watch this.
Yep,
that is disrespectful to the women's division. In my opinion,
why do you say that?
Title, it should be a big deal. The women's tag team titles should be a big deal. It's the WWE tag team titles, and it's going to be defended on NXT, which is a developmental brand. I know they don't want you to think it's a developmental brand,
okay,
but it is.
But hold on. Yeah, let me play devil's advocate here. But you're going against the NXT Women's Champion and a partner. And remember, they had Charlotte Flair use her Royal Rumble win as recently as a couple of years ago against the NXT champion. So
okay.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't like that then. I don't like this now.
Yeah, I did not like the outcome of that one either. But that notwithstanding, normally I would. I do see what you're saying, but I think the fact that it is against the current champion, and they did a good job of bringing up the history of Asuka and Kairi Sane both being previous champions, with Asuka being probably one of the most dominantly booked women's champions in NXT, and they did a good job of that. And I know they gotta get some star power for these events, some additional star power for some of these, and I'm sure it'll probably be a good match. But then yes, Ridge Holland interrupted the women's champ and her partner during that promo. And, crowd didn't take too kindly to that. And then when he was in the middle of giving his spiel, the lights go out, and then you see somebody use a chair, and then it was revealed to be Sean Spears. And then later when he was leaving, they asked him about it, and he's like, I like Ridge, but he's been lying to himself, and that pain he's feeling is the truth, and this and that. And so, yeah, that happened. But I guess when they were like, "Oh, this place is still going crazy for what just happened," then when they said it, they picked the worst possible time to make that comment from commentary, because it was not, the crowd was not still going nuts. Now, hey, the crowd was into it when it happened. Absolutely. They really were. It was a good segment, crowd wise. They were, into it, and your typical chants and all that stuff. So
I think that Sean Spears had a really rude awakening when he left WWE the first time and went over to AEW. And because I think that he probably had aspirations for himself when he left here, because I'm sure he left here because he thought he was being misused, just to go over there. I don't watch a lot of AEW. I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb. No one cared about him that much over there, so he came back over here. And now he's back in NXT, which can't be what he thought. Can't be where he thought he would be in his career. But what it does do is it opens up the door for his wife to come back. And I know that you love the Iconics.
Iconics, yes.
It does open that door. We'll see what happens there, but wrestling is a tough beast, and to be on the road as much as they are, to be away from your wife, can't be what he wants. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if the Iconics come back.
Yeah. What was next? Was it it was
Lexis King and Von Wagner?
Lexis King's entrance. I don't know why I thought it was so great. Like, like it's obviously on some type of track, but like it comes from off stage to the middle of it. It's him sliding in on a throne. He gets out of it and goes to the ring. Yeah, Lexis King did not win. So, and man, I'm trying to remember what it's set up though.
I'd say what it's set up. It's set up a D+ from Bleacher Report. That's what it's set up. I didn't watch it, and by this grade, I'm not gonna.
Okay, see, I remember seeing that grade, and I didn't remember it being that.
Well, I don't know how anyone could have gotten a grade.
Bad.
NXT is a 2-hour show, correct?
Yes.
And I'm seeing here, looks like they had 10 matches. That's too many matches for a 2-hour show. I feel like these couldn't have been that long of matches. Again, I did not watch, so I am just speculating.
Yeah.
But I don't know what type of story you can tell in the ring when you have this many matches on one show.
Yeah, and then I know, let's see, afterwards, King was mad that he lost and was like attacked Mr. Stone and that whole thing. And then what was next?
It was Gigi Dolan and Jada Parker.
Okay, so they went to the GM, Gigi Dolan went to the GM asking, hey, just seeing what my direction is here going forward. Like, yeah, come on, let's go to my office. And then Parker was already waiting in Ava's office, and she's like, how'd you get in here? And they were bickering about that. And then it's like, well, y'all's immediate future is y'all facing each other today. And the match was okay, but again, this is another thing where, just from, if memory serves me right, just a lot, like there's been like a lot of losses post breakup of Toxic Attraction, Mandy Rose leaving, and then Dolan and JC getting split up. And this was another one. Granted, it was interference from, and this angle I'm really not too familiar with, but the beauty pageant presentation of, God, man, who was jumped up? Ariana Grace, because she was trying to convince them they didn't need to fight each other and to handle it by talking it out and this and that. She jumped up in the apron and distracted Gigi Dolan, and Gigi Dolan lost. And so that was that whole thing. And then, I really liked the next match.
And the next match was the Heritage Cup with Noam Dar versus Charlie Dempsey, who was with NQCC, and Noam Dar was with Oro Mensa.
Okay.
No idea what any of those things are, but
Okay.
what did you think of that? It sounds like you liked the match.
I did, and I, I've seen all the stuff about the Heritage Cup. I had to look up exactly what it is. It's a total of 6 3-minute rounds. It's like a British fighting kind of rules. 6 3-minute rounds. The first one to win two rounds wins by pinfall, submission, or countout. Noam Dar apparently has had the Heritage Cup for quite some time. I think total he's had it the most. Very good match in the no quarter. Was it the no quarter catch club?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is? But the thing was, Noam Dar and the no quarter catch club rules or whatever, kind of like, I don't know if it was like the Freebird rule where any
one of the
right,
any two of them could, yeah.
Right. And so they were all in the ring, and then Dempsey came forward as the one who was going to fight him.
Okay.
And Dempsey won the first round. I think a couple of them, at least one of them, went to the time limit. And then Dar caught him with his finisher, like the running kick to the face.
Okay.
And then, dude, the only thing I did not like, but hey, it's one of those things when you got the numbers game, you got the numbers game. The rest of them were jumping up on the apron, and Dar was trying to, level them out. And Dempsey caught him with like a good, like a type. It almost looks like kind of like a type of German suplex, except he does like double underhooks on the arms to like. It looks good the way that it looks like the shoulders are trapped to the mat.
Gotcha.
And he took the final fall that way. And it was, but again, that's nitpicking a little bit. You got a faction with you at ringside, so you kind of have to expect some sort of shenanigans at some point. But but the match was great before that happened. And, I think me and you could both sit here and gripe about great matches ruined by what we perceive as unnecessary interference. But very, very, very good.
Of the Attitude Era.
Yeah. But a very good match. And based on the length that I believe Dar had the Heritage Cup, or at least total for multiple runs with it, I think it was probably a bit of a surprise it changed hands on a regular episode. But no, very, very good. Very, very entertaining match. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Noam Dar's talented. I do know who he is.
Yes.
So he's talented. He's talented, no doubt. I actually think that was the last match on NXT.
Yeah.
Because the show ended with Tony D'Angelo interrupting Carmelo Hayes' title challenge and changes the contract.
Oh,
what is that about?
Okay, it was pretty good. So Carmelo Hayes had a team of security with him, like surrounding the ringside for his contract talk with Dragic or Ilya Dragic, and Ava was there, and they were scheduled to sign a contract for Hayes to fight Dragic at Roadblock on Tuesday. Then Tony D'Angelo comes out and was like, "Hey, hold on, I've worked for everything I've had, and I want to work my way to a title shot. So the contract now," he's like, "Champ, if you agree to it," he's like, "it's going to be me versus Carmelo at Roadblock, and the winner faces you at Stand and Deliver."
Okay.
And then and a pretty cool thing about the whole mafia persona that he's got going on, the Don thing. He apparently had paid off Carmelo's security. And when Carmelo was trying to get him to, get him out of the ring, he kind of like
turned on him.
He did like just a boss move, like a snap of the finger. They all jumped in unison off and then went to the back. It was cool, man. It was.
I do like that.
Yeah, it was cool. And but it ended up with I think Carmelo shoved the Don, and he bumped into Dragic, and then Carmelo power bombed or slammed the Don through the table and was standing tall over the champ. But he signed the contract to face the Don next or on Tuesday, and the winner of those two will go on to stand and deliver to face the champ.
Okay,
it was a good segment. Good segment.
So overall, you enjoyed NXT?
Yeah, and I, like I said, it's gonna take me some time, and I apologize for our 4 listeners who that I had to stumble through and remembering names of that, but it's gonna take me a while to get in. But dude, I was hooked. The action was good, and I'm familiar with the storylines from reading the reports, but it'll take me a few weeks to get into it. But the wrestling was good. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to getting caught back up on everything.
Well, there was a time where people might say that NXT was WWE's A show. So back in the day. So
oh yeah.
Okay. So now on to, well, before we get into SmackDown, did you end up watching The Rock's Instagram post?
Yes, I did.
So here's one of my takeaways. He can't wrestle a match. He was gassed talking for that 21-minute period. He was sweating and he was gasping for air by the end of his promo. So I'm concerned about whether or not he can get through a match. And I'm being 100% serious, because from all accounts, wrestling conditioning is just different than other types of conditioning. And he may work out every single day, but I've never seen The Rock post a cardio video. He's clearly lifts weights, which is not going to prepare you for a 20-minute match or whatever they're going to have him do. So after watching that, I'm thinking to myself, well, he has to be involved in a tag team match, because he can't handle a singles match right now. Now, they did post that The Rock he's going to be around past WrestleMania.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, I think once. Oh, dude, you got to think, and he touched on it during the Instagram post, and I know a lot of it was just promo heel work and all that, but there's truth in it. When he signed on as on the board of TKO, and then as part of that Netflix, however many billions of dollars deal,
it was 5.
Yeah, $5 billion deal, whatever it was. You got to think that he gave assurances that he was going to be like, at least have more on-screen appearances going forward for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Now, me saying that he got gassed during the promo, that doesn't take away from the fact that I thought I was highly entertained.
Oh yeah,
throughout the entire 21 minutes. That's it does not change that fact. The Rock is still and will always be. He'll come out when he's 80 years old and he'll cut a promo, and he's still going to be one of, if not the best talker in the history of the WWE. That's just the way that it is. He knows. I know the bloodline is a gimmick, but it's in his blood. It's just, he's been doing it since he was a kid. How old is The Rock now? 50?
Is he 50?
It's got to be. He's got to be 50.
Stand by.
51. He's 51 years old.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's young if you're comparing to a guy like Ric Flair or Sting, but he's 51 years old. So he's been doing this since he was in his 20s, and I'm sure he's been around it since he was born. So it's just in his blood, and he's just so good on the mic. He makes everything seem important, and that it's something that Roman Reigns, I don't want to say he lacks, because Roman Reigns has been phenomenal with his run. But he's not going to hook you in like The Rock does. I mean, The Rock he just makes this feel so important. He makes this feel so big. And Roman Reigns does not need The Rock at all.
No.
He does not need The Rock. But he just adds another layer to this thing to just make this so much more entertaining than it already was. And I just love that he's committing to being there this often. And I think he's only got 2 more SmackDowns, so I don't think I find it hard to believe he's not going to be at the go home SmackDown. But if he's not, then so be it. Because in his promo, which is what we'll call it, his promo on Instagram, he said he's going to be there on the 8th, and he said he's going to be there on the 15th, which means, or at least he's implying, that he's not going to be there on the 22nd or the 29th, which he might have some sort of scheduling obligations, or it might just be they haven't settled in on how they're going to finish this up before they get to the first week of April. But I'm just glad that he's going to be there I know he's going to be there next Friday, and I'm curious to see what the ratings have been, since they've made a point to make sure that everyone knows that he's going to be there. And I also want to know, I want to know the ratings by segment. So he came out first. He must have had things to do, but he came out first. I'm curious to know if there was a precipitous ratings drop after the opening segment of SmackDown. So, and I know they have those numbers. I just haven't looked them up. But I'm just curious to see if it dropped. And I'm sure it did. But wonder by how much.
Especially once the main event.
How can we expect our viewers to stay when we have one of the hosts yawning? I may or may not edit that out. I may shame you and keep it in.
You'll disappoint all 4 of them.
I mean, people on TikTok are going to start coming over to YouTube, because the Golden Squeeze is doing some things on TikTok recently. Just letting you know.
It is. And we may. And if we're going to keep them hooked, we may need to do some editing of my pauses on the NXT review. Awesome. Anyway, so I see what you're saying about, and again with him, being gassed in the shape and this and that. I just don't know. I'm just not convinced this wasn't the plan. I'm not.
You're not convinced?
No.
So you think it was?
I'm thinking it may have been.
Well, here's one thing I will say for you saying that. I want to bring you back to the way that you reacted to this original segment between The Rock and Cody. When what was the verbiage that he used? Not this year or something along. What did Cody say?
Just not at WrestleMania.
Yeah, just not at WrestleMania. I just don't. I know they're trying to close that loophole. I don't buy it.
Yes, and I don't buy it. And I don't know if that was. And I agree that, because that was something. But that's the power of The Rock. The way he did that promo was like, okay, well, they could just be using that to explain that away. But then just some of these other little seeds that are being planted, like and this goes back to what we said. Remember when I asked, like, did you really think Cody was going to win last year? And I think we both said no.
No.
And just
wasn't ready.
Yeah, you said that. And I also thought it was just too obvious. I thought if they were really going to have him win, they would not have advertised him coming back. They would have had him as a surprise entrant in the Rumble, which, let's face it, with the type of injury he had, nobody would have thought anything about it. Like, oh, he's still recovering.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
And just, I thought it was a little too obvious, but now I'm doing the same thing here. It's like, okay, is it a little too obvious that Rock is going to turn on Roman Reigns with him actually acknowledging him and yeah, and all that, like him pointing and some of the stuff he's saying and the way it's being interpreted? It's like, is it too obvious that that's going to go down that way? But with that said, even if he doesn't full out turn on him, ideally what I would like to happen is some type of interference or attempted interference. The ref slaps the mat twice, going for a third, and that ref may even be The Rock if it's tribal rules. And then the glass shatters and Stone Cold comes out.
He's been working out.
Yes.
I know you've seen it.
Yes.
He looks great.
Yes.
Uh,
And he's got to be at WrestleMania 40, dude. He has to be. He has to be.
Here's why. Here's why I don't think he will be. You don't have a surprise appearance from Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's the same reason why Austin didn't want to lose, didn't want to have that match with Brock Lesnar, and he took his ball and walked away. You have to build that up.
No, you don't.
You can't. I think you do.
Not in this case, because The Rock is the buildup. Cody Rhodes getting his revenge is part of the buildup.
The Rock is the buildup.
The Rock's
Stone Cold. The Stone Cold's for the fans, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I don't think that The Rock is going to turn on Roman Reigns.
Hey, hold on. I want to refute that point too. Remember a couple years ago, was it last year? No, 2 years ago. Was Austin KO that main event in night one, correct?
Yes, but we knew that Austin was going to be there.
No. For night one, we did. They didn't advertise him night two when he came and stunned Vince McMahon in the worst stunner reception ever.
But at least Austin laughed it off.
Oh.
So he couldn't hold back his laughter after that. And it is what it is. You can't expect Vince to take a.
That was
Vince
bad.
looks.
God, that poor guy could barely walk. I would say poor guy and put him in a positive light with everything. You know what I mean.
Your hero could barely walk.
Stop. God, please. That is not true for viewers. That is not true. Anyways, but he was not advertised for night two. But again, I feel like they think that Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes was enough of a selling point with the whole. Oh, I'm sorry. That was who did main event that 2 years ago? What was the main event of night two? Was it Roman Brock?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess they felt they had enough star power there to
not Stone Cold star power, but he's got star power. He might have Stone Cold star power because there's a lot of UFC fans out there. I mean, I think that his crossover in the UFC made him. He's a household name.
No. I 100% agree with what you're saying. However, I think it's different because Stone Cold's appearances have been there have been far fewer than with Brock. Brock for like during that time period was, a recurring character on television. But because I was at Jerry World, that one where he fought KO and then came out after the Theory McAfee match. And dude, there were still tickets available, so I'm sure that could have boosted more tickets. Like, and on night two, another appearance by Stone Cold Steve Austin or something, and they chose not to do that. But
yeah, I guess you're right. But let me tell you, when I say I think that Roman is going to be the first to strike on The Rock, I don't know if you've noticed, but Roman's mannerisms recently, he's got this nervous, irritated, like twitch every single time like The Rock starts talking. Like he'll go to the ropes, he'll put his head like this and get in the ropes, and he'll just start doing like one of these, and like you can see a nervous tick. Like he's just so irritated with The Rock getting the attention that I think that if they do have a tag team match, he's going to be the one to hit The Rock and not vice versa. And I could be wrong about that, but the way that he's handling his body language to me, I think is absolutely intentional. And I think it's to set up him attacking The Rock as opposed to vice versa.
Very well could be. And
we'll see.
But I'm wondering, and then even, but going off of that point, like, and I like what you said, because that also goes with what I'm thinking. It almost seems too obvious at this point that Rock is going to be the one to double cross Roman.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it seems too obvious. Like, oh, now Roman's lured into this false sense of security and like looked just so relieved after The Rock acknowledged him in the Friday night promo.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they're doing it, but it is different. It is 100% Vince McMahon free booking this year. So it may not go the same way. But
yeah.
But it's going to be interesting. Like I said, though, I can't see the parallels with assuming something's going to happen and then for it to not. And I also can't help but to think, man, even though it may be the final straw for some people being invested in this storyline, I can't help that there's probably some people there at the company who still want to see him get past Hulk Hogan in the record books.
Yeah.
And I can't help but to keep thinking about that, even though I think it's time. I think it's time to take the title.
I think so too, especially if he's going to continue, well, I guess with his part-time role. I know that title's not the working title or the worker's title, but I think that he needs to be a little bit more active than he's been, in my opinion. What role do you think Solo is going to play?
Man, I don't know where they're going with all that. I was thinking he was going to get. I was thinking there was going to be some arc where Reigns was pushing around Solo or berating him for stuff, and just that really hasn't been the case here of late. And now The Rock's there. I think somehow. I guess we'll have to see what happens night one, because if
I'm gonna
go ahead.
I'm gonna throw a stat your way. And I think they have to know this backstage, and I think that this is intentional, and I want to know where they're going with this. But since September, what do you think? How many wins do you think Solo has?
September?
I looked this up. Yep. He has, I'll tell you how many matches he has, and you tell me his record. He has got 40 matches since September.
I don't know.
Just throw out a number. How many wins do you think he has?
Is it 40?
It includes live shows.
Oh.
House shows, but 40 matches. It's a Goldberg streak, 40 matches. So just a fake number, but he's at 40 matches.
I'll go with,
let's do
I'll
this.
go with 30.
I'll do this.
30.
I want you to put up the bloodline symbol, what they do.
Really?
He's 1-39. I looked it up. There's a website that has every match that every wrestler fights and whether or not they won or lost. He is 1-39 since September, and that one was in November against John Cena at Crown Jewel. That is his only win in his past 40 matches. So they have let him lose 39 of the last 40 matches. So that's why I ask, that has to be intentional. What are they doing with Solo? When he came up from NXT, he was supposed to be this badass enforcer. And trust me, he looks the part in that he always has that scowl on his face wherever he is. And there are times where they catch him about to break, and he has to do one of these.
Oh, that Friday night when he saw Rock's shirt, I thought he was done. he came close.
But he has played his role I'm not going to say to perfection since he's 1-39, but they have to have a plan for him. You can't just let him lose that many matches. Just the way he was such a force in NXT, and then he came up and he was hitting everybody with the Samoan spike, and then they just let him lose every match. So
But who
I
has he been
didn't want to bring
losing
this.
to?
I didn't want to bring this up when we were talking about like Tamina and the Big Show, but he's Tamina at this point. That's who he is because he doesn't win. I'll tell you who he's been losing to.
Okay, since he beat Cena, who has he lost to?
Here we go. I'm just gonna name the names: LA Knight, LA Knight, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, AJ Styles. There was AJ Styles, LA Knight, and Randy Orton versus Jimmy and Solo in a handicap tag match. Kevin Owens, AJ, Kevin Owens, AJ, Kevin Owens and LA Knight in a tag match. AJ, Kevin Owens and LA Knight in a tag match. LA Knight, Kevin Owens and LA Knight in a tag match. LA Knight. I can go on and on. It's pretty much all the same guys over and over again. It's some combination of LA Knight, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. There was John Cena and LA Knight versus Jimmy and Solo at WWE Fastlane. There was Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, John Cena, and LA Knight versus Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa in a dark match that they lost. AJ Styles and John Cena on SmackDown beat Jimmy and Solo. So AJ Styles. So other than John Cena, he pinned AJ Styles on a SmackDown on September 1st. That's his last win on a non-pay-per-view. Was September 1st.
Just keep in mind when it comes to like LA Knight, and then you had LA Knight, AJ Styles, Randy Orton. Some of these that Reigns fought at the PLEs or fought at or like the Crown Jewel. Now, granted, I know Solo won that match, but in the build to it, if he lost to LA Knight, you got to make the guys fighting Roman Reigns look strong on the build up because they're going to be fed to him. And then same with continuation of LA Knight, Styles, and Orton on the build up to the Royal Rumble because they were fed to Reigns again. Now, granted, I don't think for the type of character he's being portrayed as, it should be that way, but to a degree, I get it. Because most of those names were recent Reigns opponents. And so if you have these guys losing on the house shows city to city, then they have to maximize the credibility of Reigns' opponents because we all know until WrestleMania that they're going to lose.
Yeah. I think that what they might be doing is that obviously the bloodline is going to be breaking up here in the near future. Maybe the last person that leaves the bloodline, it's just Roman and Solo. And then Roman calls him out for all these losses. And then Solo Samoan spikes him, and then he gets one of the ancillary pay-per-views, a match against Roman Reigns. I'm sure he won't win that, but maybe at like not a fast lane. What's maybe like a backlash or
Money in the Bank?
Maybe, but Money in the Bank I feel is like kind of big now.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah, I think he needs a pay-per-view a little smaller for him to main event than Money in the Bank. I don't think that he's there to the point where it would be at that. I think at a smaller pay-per-view, they'll give it to him. Maybe like a
interesting, to say the least, because that is interesting. Those are interesting statistics, to say the least.
Yeah, but when when Roman Reigns grabbed The Rock's wrist and the camera was just right there, that's peak WWE right there. That's just such good. Their production quality is just so much better than all of their competition. And that's one of the main reasons why they're so much better than everybody, because, man, their vignettes, their hype videos that they put out, all those things are just so much better than any other company can do. And just their camera work, when that camera just pan and the Roman just grabs him and says, there's one thing that I need you to do. Acknowledge me, man. That was good stuff. I love that.
I did not expect that this soon either. So that was, I thought that was going to be like, I thought there was going to be a build to that a little bit.
He's only got 2 more. He's only got 2 more
Yeah,
SmackDown, so
true.
he's only got so much time to get to there.
Yeah.
But he did it, and again, you could see that The Rock was even gassed from doing that, because that vein right here was popping out of his head, and his face was beet red. And it's tough since he's half black and half Samoan to be beet red, but he was. And when he said, "Roman Reigns, I acknowledge you as the head of the table," and then he put up the L, but his thumb was more of almost a J this time, the way his thumb was. I don't know if you noticed, but Paul Heyman saw it. Did you see Paul Heyman? Go back and watch. Paul Heyman looked over, and he did one of these, a confused look on his face when The Rock didn't have his thumb in, and he noticed that The Rock did this. Go back and watch that, and he had a look. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I don't think that Paul Heyman does anything unintentionally, and I don't think The Rock does anything unintentionally either. So I think that something's going to come of that.
It was a J for jabroni.
It might have been. It might have been. But all in all, excellent use of time on the show. Excellent work, in my opinion. You may think differently, but I thought it was great.
I did, because of the way the promo ended. At first, I was like, "Man, this was a little long," and but then when it ended the way it did, with him acknowledging Roman and everything, I was like, "Okay, all is well." So
all's well that ends well.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah. Oh, by the way, I was kind of thinking too. Based on The Rock's video he posted, maybe we should put on a bathrobe and say how we hate him right now, and maybe he'll retweet us and say he doesn't know who we are, but we'll get a bunch of views.
Yeah, I would love for him to. But my name's Josh. It doesn't matter what your name is. I would love for him to do that.
I don't think he would get that, but just for him to call us losers would be amazing.
He could spit in my face and I'd smile while he did it. Oh, the one thing I forgot, when he said The Rock's 22 inches of heaven, when he said that, I was laughing until he specified that he was talking about his arms. I was thinking, man, that is one hell of an embellishment.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about, how you got Barry on the bed, like superimpose Rock's face on that. If he wouldn't have clarified,
that was good. I think next up was Damage Control versus the Kabuki Warriors. Something that I think that we've all known was eventually going to happen. They finally pulled the trigger, and Damage Control seemingly is no more. What did you think of Dakota Kai turning on Bailey and the way she did?
I don't know about no more as much as minus Bailey.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But they have to rebrand themselves as something else without Bailey, in my humble opinion. But
yeah,
she pulled the old Sid Justice on Hogan, which was a very nice homage, and I'm sure Bailey probably played a role in that happening. The historian of the WWE that she is, but when she jumped down off the apron, that was the first thing I thought of when Sid did that to Hogan many moons ago. I thought it was a nice touch. And then for one thing I didn't understand, though, is when Bailey went out and jumped on Dakota and started fighting her, why are the Kabuki Warriors breaking that up? What's the point of that? Let her beat the hell out of the tag. You're still in a match. Let them beat the hell out of each other, and then go do your
No,
thing.
the match was over. The plan worked to a T.
I maybe
It was over.
maybe
The match was over.
yeah.
Oh, but and I know they touched on this and some stuff I saw online, but the way that Io held the belt and hit the running knee and the belt didn't move. Just that was good stuff.
Yeah. But actually reminds me, I actually forgot a match, and I apologize to the two women involved in the match in between this, but I forgot about Naomi versus Tiffy time.
Ooh, yeah, there was a lot of controversy with the IWC about this one.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on that? About Naomi losing clean?
No, she didn't.
To Tiffany. Well,
she did the eye rake when the ref wasn't looking.
Okay, we're calling it an eye. Okay,
it was an underhanded.
Well,
it was an underhanded because I thought the same thing. I was like, did I miss something? And I did. I didn't catch the eye rake, but they made sure to bring attention to that. But again, I think this is by design. People are mad and up in arms. She just came back. She was the champion. You're going to treat her like this. She got eliminated first at the chamber. She loses on TV to Tiffany Stratton. But I think I'm thinking we could see, obviously not to that magnitude, but the old rarely used double turn based on crowd reaction. Have Stratton turn face and Naomi turn heel.
Well, I told you when we did our Elimination Chamber recap that she can't have that new music and stay a face, in my opinion. I think that music is too dark to be paired with the baby face. I think that music is perfect for a heel. So we'll see when the turn happens.
May not be a
but I definitely think it's coming. Well, Tiffany Stratton can't be a baby. She can't be a heel for much longer. The fans love her. They're never going to boo her, and she belittles the fans, and they just take it. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But I apologize to them for forgetting about their match.
Yeah, no, because I think that's because at first I can't sit here and say I didn't think the same thing. I was like, man, kind of odd that she just fairly clean by heel against face standards, lost.
Mm-hmm.
But I just taking everything into account, I think I think it's by design.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. I hope that there is a plan for her, because I think that Vince might have treated the way that she left the company and then came back. And then I think that Vince would have no problem punishing her for doing that and just making her continue to lose. But I don't see Triple H as being the type of guy who would do that. I don't think that he would punish her by just making her lose in the beginning. But you never know.
But here's my problem with this whole punishing thing, even when it used to happen. A lot of these ones I got punished were recruited to come back.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't know if you remember the whole thing. That's what baffled me so much about the whole thing with Sting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they had the clip of, hey, let's go talk in here. Triple H wanted to talk to him. He recruited him to talk about more beyond the video game, behind closed doors. Now, granted, I'm sure that whole thing was facilitated by Vince, but still, that's what I never understood. And I know we're getting off another subject for another day, but it's like
they're assholes. They recruit them there to embarrass them. You cannot tell me they did not get Sting there just to embarrass him. I won't believe you. I wouldn't believe them if they told me they didn't.
But
shouldn't have lost every match in the WWE that he ever had.
He was a pro's pro, and
he was. He took it.
By the way, I'd like to do something about Sting on a later segment or for another day. We can't.
You can give him his swan song. I'll give you an entire segment.
Yeah, we can't go this whole week without addressing, because at some point I'm gonna have to, even if I have to bite the bullet and order it, I'm gonna have to watch his last match. So, which I've not checked since we've been doing this to see how that went. Being, dude, I mean, common sense would say he going out on his back, and the Young Bucks rightfully should go over since he's retiring and leaving, because Darby Allin would have to find a new partner.
Well, the one thing I will tell you is that I have a friend who does not even watch wrestling, and I have not seen what he's sent me, but I did see that he sent me a clip of Darby Allin doing something.
Oh, that's dude.
He doesn't watch wrestling, so
yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure he did something completely stupid, something that younger Josh would have said, "Man, that's awesome," but older Josh says, "Man, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it." I don't need blood anymore. When I was a kid, I needed blood. I needed that to feel something. But now, as an adult, I'm like, man, these unnecessary risks that some of these guys are taking.
Yeah.
Darby Allin is just I can't watch those matches anymore.
We got off there. What we'll touch back on that.
Well, the next match was a squash match. It was Braun Breaker when he steamrolled Jan or X-Yon Quinn. I don't even know what X-Y-O-N would spell.
Jan?
Ja, I don't know, but
John?
Mr. Quinn.
I don't know either.
He took. First of all, Braun is insane the way that he hits those ropes. He is so fast and so big and so strong. I mean, his daddy taught him well. But we touched on this earlier. I'm not a huge fan on squash matches, and I know that we grew up with jobbers like Barry Horowitz who would just do the job on people, and it served a purpose so that you don't have to have Solo be that jobber or Tamina be that jobber. It gives an opportunity for guys to get wins without having to diminish other wrestlers who are getting at screen time. So I completely understand it. And I know this is hypocritical since I complained about that earlier, but I also don't like jobbers either, because why do I need a 3-second match? I don't need a 3-second match.
I have a theory. And we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think he's being presented this way at the early stages of his SmackDown career because he's pulling double duty. And he's part of a championship duo on NXT, which, they've got a title defense Tuesday night, and then presumably, if I had to take a guess, are going to drop the titles at Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend. So, I mean, they built up that team, having them win the Dusty Classic, and then and getting the belts and everything. And I gotta think they're just playing it pretty cautiously, but still presenting him as like, hey, look at this powerhouse can do. Look at his speed, and just still like, hey, he's here, but just being extremely cautious, especially seeing how, because wasn't Mello hurt or just Theory when they had their match? Because remember, Mello came up and has worked a few SmackDowns, but didn't they both get hurt with that botched move off the turnbuckle?
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe that was okay. If we're gonna have these guys do double duty, we're gonna have one of the shows be, a little less involved if we're gonna still present them this much on one brand. Hey, make them still be visible here, but not as much. I don't even know if Mello's been back since. I don't think he has.
I don't think so.
I mean, no. I take that back. I think they had the match after they were, said, hey, they're fine. And then they had another match, but I don't think he's been back since then.
Well, I guess we'll be able to tell once Baron and Braun drop the tag titles,
which I predict will
that
be
seemingly would be
stand and deliver.
that seemingly would be the time for Braun to make his leap to the main roster full time and ditch NXT. We'll see if after that happens he gets another squash match, because if the squash matches stop, then I accept your premise. But if they don't stop, then I don't know.
And I think that, and this will be also the first post Raw, post SmackDown, or post Mania Raw and SmackDown, post Vince influence. Because there's been a lot of complaints about that over the years. It went from one of the most watched episodes of the year to like, hey, this is crap.
A dud.
Yeah. But I think that's going to change, and I'm thinking titles get dropped at Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend, and then Friday night a legit feud begins for Braun Breaker.
Who's his first feud going to be?
Dude, I don't know. Not Roman Reigns and
Spear versus Spear.
Dude, I don't know. I guess if he's still part of the roster, like over there, I think he's on SmackDown still. No, because right now they're presenting him as a face.
Who, Braun?
Yeah, Breaker. Or, I mean, I don't. I mean, he's getting cheered on, and I don't. Even in NXT right now with Baron Corbin, the fans are cheering them, and I'll go out on a limb here. Even if he's the one who dethrones Gunther, I'm going to go with Sheamus as his first feud.
Okay,
I
could see that.
I mean, and I could be way off, and because that's another thing too. It's like, okay, well, and this is assuming Sheamus does not beat Gunther, because they're not going to feed Breaker to Sheamus. But still, even if he comes back from a layoff, do you feed Sheamus to Braun Breaker? I mean, Sheamus will do it, but
yeah, I don't think you should have to. But yeah,
but I think I think if they go that way, that needs to be well presented.
Yeah, I trust that they.
I think they have great matches.
They will do it. Yeah,
I think that could be a very, very good feud.
Yeah, well, Sheamus is great.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so the next up was a street fight between Carlito and Santos Escobar. Yeah, Carlito is just he's nostalgia right there. Whenever he gets that apple, that's an easy pop from the crowd.
Oh yeah,
easy pop from the crowd.
Yeah.
And he's a lot bigger than he was in his first run, muscular wise. He worked out for the 10 or however long it was years he was gone. He worked out, looks like every single day, because he looks good. I like Kurt. He's just fun.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a fun guy to watch. But I mean, that match was all about the return of Rey Mysterio, and comes out in his crutches, which, oh my gosh, he doesn't need the crutches anymore, which is like one of the oldest WWE tropes is the guy who's injured always comes back with either a cast or an arm brace or a mask or a crutch, and then they ditch him and use him as a weapon against the person who injured them in the first place. I'm sure that Punk will. What did he injure? His pec. He'll probably come out like this one day and then rip off whatever he has on and hit Drew McIntyre over the head with it or something.
It was his tricep, Josh. Get the injury right. Jeez,
whatever, his tricep. So I'm glad to see. Well, I don't even know if I'm glad to see Rey Mysterio back, but he did get a huge pop.
I love Rey Mysterio, man, and I like that mask too that he had, the all black, like the what was that, like the flat black like look. That was cool, and I think common sense would say that's setting up a LWO Ley Delgado Phantasmo WrestleMania like undercard match.
Yeah. No, I agree. And when you say undercard, you don't mean pre-show.
No,
not that far on the undercard. Just want to make sure.
No.
Because the pre-show needs to be just for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Dude, and the thing is, man, when you've got 2 full days of time
Matches.
slots,
Yeah.
I really don't think there's, again, maybe aside from that Battle Royal, I don't think there's a need to put them on a pre-show. And there better
You
not
wouldn't think
be
so.
one title defended on a pre-show at WrestleMania. It better not happen.
I heard that the Universal title might be on the pre-show.
Well, oh, speaking of which, but anyways, going back, then I'll ask if you noticed this. I like the match. It was good. It was good fun. Good.
Yeah.
Man, and Escobar's an athlete, man.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the spot with the trash can over him getting whooped while the trash can was on his head. That was pretty good.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about Rey Mysterio is the way that the 619 gets set up. Because normally you just have to, I've said this numerous times, you just got to suspend disbelief a lot of these times with these setups, that a man would end up in the middle rope draped over it. And the funny part is that Rey Mysterio's there. Why are you allowing yourself to be draped over the middle rope? There's only one thing that's going to happen when you're over the middle rope like that. You're going to get 619. So just move. It might be one of the more absurd moves in wrestling.
I think it's the most plausible move.
It's also like whenever I see the stomp get used by Seth Rollins, why are people leaning over right there? Like, why? you know what his finishing move is. Just don't lean like that. Stand straight up or stay on the ground.
It's kind of like when somebody takes a spine buster from The Rock, and I guess they experience a paralysis for 2 minutes while he's setting it up, and
they don't feel that little nudge by his foot on their arm as he's setting up his people's elbow. Roll over.
Or you could say the same for the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Yeah, exactly. just roll over. Like, it's not going to hurt when it hits you in the back.
Hey, you know what somebody needs to do one time? They need to do like what and I don't know if he still does it or not, but when somebody would try a top rope move on Samoa Joe and he would just walk out of the way.
Yes.
Somebody just needs to get up and move.
If someone chose to fight a fight the way a fight would actually be fought against a guy who has absurd moves like those guys, it would just be a hilarious match. But moving on, though, to the main event, it was Austin Theory versus Randall Keith Orton. So Waller and Theory got the main events for SmackDown and Raw. So the company at least has faith in them to finish off a show, both of them. But what did you think of that match?
The match was fine, but it's one of those things where, barring some type of potential interference angle, the result was never, ever in doubt.
No.
Ever.
Never.
And now, how was the RKO? Because I feel like it was a pretty good RKO, if I remember right, or somebody took a pretty good RKO.
Yeah, Austin Theory went off the apron. He popped up, and then Randy Orton got him with the RKO. It was a very good RKO.
Okay.
But I mean, there's one thing that we know from Theory: it's he can sell moves like that. Yeah. So I wasn't surprised. It was a good RKO. He's talented. I mean,
and part of me wonders if
Austin Theory's talented.
I mean, granted, you could put Randy Orton in the main event of either of the flagship shows, and fans would be invested in it. But but part of me wonders is I wonder if they did that thinking, okay, Logan Paul is not here, but you never know if he's going to show up, even though he's not advertised. So, like, and still get the hooks into the viewers. Like, oh well, he's going to come around or do something and interfere with this match too. But so I don't know. Again, one of those things that even though Paul wasn't advertised, just hey, is he going to come stick his nose into that match and cost him that one too?
Mm-hmm.
But,
and I'm wondering whether or not they keep it a singles match.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
I think Jake Paul is going to wrestle at WrestleMania.
You think so? Is that your bold prediction?
That is one of my bold predictions, that Jake Paul will be wrestling in some capacity at WrestleMania. I think he's going to be in a match with his brother. At the very least, he's going to interfere in a match with his brother.
Oh yeah, I think that's a given. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know if he interferes to help his brother or hurt his brother. I guess it depends on what type of contract they want to sign Jake Paul to. But I'd be curious to see a Logan. And I think that the fans, not me personally, but fans of the Paul brothers, I think would love to see those two guys fight each other. I think they would love that. And I think that could do big money for the company.
Oh, of course.
Those two guys fighting each other at maybe SummerSlam. I don't know. But I do think that something is going to get set up with Jake Paul at WrestleMania. That is a Josh bold prediction.
I think the U.S. title match, I think they're saying it's like a lock that it's going to be Logan Paul versus Randy Orton. No, I'm not convinced of that. I think it, at the very least, it's going to be Kevin Owens in there in a triple threat match.
Yeah, I think that Kevin Owens involving himself in the main event on Friday pretty much says why we're at a point in time in the WrestleMania build-up where everything that's happening is happening to build something for WrestleMania. We're less than a month out. Well, no, we're not, but we're about exactly a month out almost. So there's only so many shows, so you can't waste any time. So Kevin Owens being out there was on purpose, and we'll see where they go with that.
Did you catch? Okay, so that was the main event. I thought overall it was a good. Obviously, the big thing was the beginning of the show. And then furthering the story of the damage control dissension. Now it's obviously Bailey against everybody, and the old school having to overcome that and furthering other storylines. Like I said, keep an eye out. I'm thinking this Naomi thing is by design, and and I'm gonna. That's one of my bold predictions. We're gonna see the double turn with her and Tiffany Stratton. Did you notice when Pete Dunne and gosh, why can't I think of his name? Who's his tag team partner?
Oh, Tyler
Bates. Yes, I apologize to Mr. Bate.
Sorry, Tyler. We know you're watching this. We're sorry.
Yes. We know that you just turned off your stream. But when Bate and Dunn, they talked to Nick Aldis, and they said, "Hey, had Dominic not got involved, we would have won, and we want a rematch with him at WrestleMania." He's like, whoa. He's like, WrestleMania. He's like, hold on a second. He's like, but I'm going to make an announcement next week about the tag team titles. So there should be some clarification on where that goes next week. And dude, I'm just wondering at some point, or unless they're going to have them pull double duty, they're going to have to split up the titles or do something. And
yeah,
they're going to have to.
I think they will. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. I think that they will end up splitting up the titles, but who knows what Triple H has up his sleeve. And That's what's best, not knowing.
What do you think is gonna happen with the Intercontinental title? Keeping in mind,
I've told you what I think is going to happen. Yeah, I know you don't
no,
like it, but
even with the whole Sami Zayn arc and him winning and getting to WrestleMania, I mean, that's got to play into this somehow. It has to.
I think that in the Raw after WrestleMania, the person who comes out with the Intercontinental title will be Damian Priest. That is what I think. How long he has it for, that's a different question. Maybe they challenges him that night and he takes it from him right away, and they just use the briefcase as a mechanism to remove the title from Gunther because they can't think of a better way to get it off him. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but if that is the scenario, then because what I originally said was that Dom wins and then Damian Priest takes it off of Dom. But I could also see a world where Dom's beaten. No, that I was about to say something real stupid. That's not going to be it. Damian comes down. I was going to say Dom's beating
Don't be afraid of that.
Well, I was going to say Dom's beating the hell out of Gunther, and then Damian Priest just shoves him aside and then pins him after cashing in his contract. But that's never going to happen. But I could see a world where Dom, it turns into like a no holds barred Intercontinental title match. Dom's beating the hell out of him with a chair or something, and then Damian Priest comes out of nowhere and hits Dom with a chair.
Well, hold on,
and then takes the title.
I just thought of something. Do you remember from Raw backstage segment with Adam Pearce and Chad Gable?
Yes.
Okay.
So
now we've got
to go somewhere too.
Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, Dom, Gunther. Dude, all signs to me are pointing towards a
fatal 4-way Intercontinental title match,
ladder match, like they had been doing.
Whole ladder match that's the Intercontinental title match.
Yes,
Razor and Shawn.
And remember that good one where Daniel Bryan, I think, picked up the belt, and then the one where Zack Ryder won.
Was it 30? That was Brock, Roman, and then Seth cashed in.
Yes.
That was that WrestleMania.
No.
That's not 30.
30 was when Brock broke the streak, and 30 was 30 was Yeselmania.
Yes, it was. But it was the WrestleMania where Seth Rollins cashed in that the ladder match that you're talking about happened. I'm fairly certain he cashed in on the Brock Roman match.
Oh, you're talking about where one of those ladder matches took place?
Yeah.
Yes.
The one that you're talking about where Daniel Bryan won.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Or was that the one that Zack Ryder won the ladder match? Who cares?
Well, it was one of those. It was one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, I could see it. Because the ladder, like I said, the ladder match is a popular match.
There's two
for the Intercontinental title,
and there's too many little Easter eggs they're dropping now. With and there could be arguments to be made for any of them winning because I know some people have been clamoring for Chad Gable for them to put a title on him, and
there is no argument for Dom winning. There's none. The only argument for Dom winning is Damian Priest immediately taking it from Dom. That is the only. If Dom has it for longer than 5 minutes, then something went wrong.
Okay, here's another bold prediction. I mean, Damian is not cashing it in on Gunther. I think Drew beats Seth. And while celebrating, Drew gets his comeuppance at the hands of Damian Priest, who cashes in and walks out of Mania with the title.
I just can't accept Damian Priest having that title. He's fine. He's just not. He's a mid-carder in my opinion.
I think he's going to get that title though. Now, trust me. I think. Because we 100% know that at least with the initial booking that an audible was called for the Raw title. We know that is not in dispute.
Yeah, well, it had to.
And so with with that said, I think they could do that, and because some things had to change now. But I don't know, because even with that said, I don't know if they're gonna end that with a cash in and Punk versus Rollins. So
Only thing I will say is that if Priest does win it, he's not having that title for very long. He is a stopgap to whoever they have as the next guy. He's not a guy who can have a long title run, in my opinion, and for that title to maintain credibility.
when you say not that long, like
A month or less?
no.
Yeah.
No.
What's the next pay-per-view?
No.
He loses it. He loses it at Backlash.
No.
That's the next.
No.
That's the next pay-per-view after WrestleMania, right?
SummerSlam.
You think he has it until SummerSlam?
Because they're gonna but hear me out. Here's my reasoning for that. Because when he drops the title, it's gonna be the final implosion of the Judgment Day.
So does he lose it to Finn?
That I don't know, but I think
or does Finn cause him to lose it? I think that those are the only two options.
Whenever something, because they've built that stable up to the point where you can't have it at a lower end. You can't have it completely dissolve at a lower end pay-per-view. You can't do it. So it's going to be at either. Now, I mean, I could see him doing it for fan service, with some big happening at one of the Saudi Arabia shows, maybe the big show in Germany, perhaps. But I think I would be more inclined to say SummerSlam.
Okay. Well, we shall see. We shall see. But I think that we're going to leave on that note. That wraps up the second episode of the Golden Squeeze podcast. If you like what you saw, hit that bell icon, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.